Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode here on CrossFit Garage, where we are helping you build a firm foundation in fitness, food, and finances. So you may think, wait, finances? That doesn't really come up that much. We do talk about it, and here's the reason. If you want to, the motto we have for our gym is we are happy, humble, helpful people who want to be healthy and fit now as well as in our 90s. So if you want to live into your 90s, then you better have some money to go along with it. So it's nice to have a great life and be super, able and flexible and maneuverable, and you can do everything you need to do like today as well as when you're 90. But if you don't have money, then you're a burden on somebody. So you need to actually be wise about your cash and your investments and so forth. So we've done some stuff about side hustles, like how to get into real estate and some other podcasts you can go back and look. This one is going to be about debt. I can't say it enough. If you can get out of debt, that is awesome and it's freeing. And there's so many good things about it. Yes, I know that people use debt to leverage themselves now for the future, and it can work. It also cannot work. So they say that the rental business or the what do you call that? Landlord business, whatever, buying properties will create more millionaires than any other method. What they don't tell you is it also crushes more people than any other method because everybody tries it. It's not that tough. You can do it. But I think even before you get there, it's get out of debt. So when you're trying to get out of debt, it's not about living a deprived life. So I live in a tiny house. I live in we live in cardboard boxes. I don't drive. I don't drive. I walk everywhere. It's not that. It's just about making smart choices about where you spend your money and being intentional. I think one of the biggest things you could give yourself is the lesson of delayed gratification. Many times we buy stuff and then we never touch it. So you know what? You shouldn't have bought it. You didn't even need it. Levi wanted to get a Nintendo Switch, 1 year. This was a couple years back. And so I said, hey buddy, that's great. If you want to get that, I'm not interested in buying it for you, but you can use your own money. And he's like, yeah, I'll use my own money. That's what I'll do. And I said, here's what I want you to do. I just want you to sit on it for a few months. He's like, really? A few months? I'm like, just sit on it. When you get it, we're just going to use it as a tool to keep you out of trouble. So if you disobey, we're going to take your phone, take your Switch, take whatever, right? So just think about it. How much do you really use it? And let's go from there. So a couple of days later, he actually came back to me and he said, hey, we have an Xbox that we bought for Guitar Hero that nobody ever really uses. I forgot about it. I'm like, yeah, just like the Nintendo Switch is going to be. But he said, what if I bought the game that I want to play, that everybody's playing, on the Xbox? It'd only be like $20 and I don't have a new system or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So he ended up getting what he wanted. All it took was like 2 days of thinking about it. So rather than spending a couple $100 on a new system and then all the other money that would have to go into buying all the other games, I actually don't know how the Nintendo Switch really works, but I'm sure you buy games just like anything else. Instead, he used something we already had, bought the game that they played, and then after like 2 weeks, everyone stopped playing it. So it didn't really matter anyway. So just make wise choices. Have a delayed gratification. Take a few minutes. So here, before we go into actually how to get out of debt and some things that you should do. So I have listened to tons of books on debt and podcast. I've taken some of the things I've heard and put it together. I even went back to Dave Ramsey's stuff and tried to bulletize some of the things that I forgot, which I actually got most of them down. I was pretty impressed. But at 50, I'm always surprised when I can actually remember things. But anyway, so if you can get on a budget, that's great. The other thing I would say is go to YNAB. You need a budget software and use that. So it's online. It's nothing you download. You can actually put it on your phone, I guess, so you can download it there. But you attach it to your financial systems. So I don't know, let's say if you use Chase for credit cards and Wells Fargo for your bank. So you just connect them, and it uses that system, Plaid or something like that, to connect it. And then it just downloads your transactions and helps you see what you're doing. So anyway, I would say go get that, at least start tracking and seeing what you're spending. So here's kind of the story where we came from. Verity and I got out of Georgia Tech as engineers. We had a decent dual income with no children. That's called a dink, right? So we were renting a house. We had, I was driving her high school car, and she had bought herself a new car, which I would never recommend buying new cars anymore, but she did. And I graduated, I think about a year or maybe a year and a half after her. So she had already kind of built up some cash living at home. Anyway, so she treated herself, got that car. We were still renting and we were saving our money. Along comes a family. We buy a house and now we've got this massive debt. I'm still driving her car, but we've got a huge debt. I found Dave Ramsey. We found Robert Kiyosaki. He's the Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy. And I was an engineer in sales. She was an engineer that transferred over a little bit to the IT world, but eventually she stopped working because we were having kids. We still had this house payment. And we're thinking, hey, you know what we really should be doing is pushing down the debt on our house. So we started doing that easy thing of just paying a little extra every time. So I guess back then in 1990s and 2000s, you would actually write a check and send it in the mail because you couldn't do any of this stuff online. And you could send in extra checks. So I would do that. Hey, here's $100. And in the memo, you would put for principal only. And so it would deduct from your principal line. So when you have a home mortgage, the reason the banks want to lend you money is because, well, one, if you mess up, they get your house. So great. It's got good collateral. And two, if they're going to loan you $100,000, you're going to end up paying $300,000. And the loan is front loaded with all the interest. So you're paying, when you pay $1,000 for the month, the first payment, like $999.99 goes towards interest. And 1 penny went to the principal. So it's a great deal for them. It's a good deal for you too. You get to get a house because who has, that much money just coming out of college or whatever, right? Anyway, so we started tackling that. Dave Ramsey's method, that was our biggest debt. And we're like, hey, let's go, instead of emotional, let's go after the biggest thing first. So we went the Brainiac way, and I'll just describe these things later on. But we were using her income, my income, kind of nailing that down. And then she stayed at home with Olivia. So we're using my income. I was a sales guy. My income was very variable based on my sales. And so people talk about side hustle. If you are a commissioned person of any type or you get bonuses for the company, don't get a side hustle. Double down on what you're doing at the company and get more bonuses. You could probably, if you're in a small business, you could probably ask the owner, hey, what can I do to help earn you more money, which then would earn me more money? And your owner is going to be like, heck yeah, let's work that plan out. Anyway, so we started jamming money down there. It was sometime in the 2000s. I don't really remember when, but we had a great sales cycle. So I basically sold stuff to Bell South, and I picked up 2 of their budgets. And one of my budget cycles, theirs was January to January, ours was April to April. So they were offset quite a bit. Anyway, got a sweet commission check. I asked my dad, hey, what should I do with this money? He's like, Andy, you should definitely invest it. And this is before, I don't know, back in the 2000s, there was like 3 or 4 different bubbles and bursts. I don't remember if it was the .com or so, I don't remember which one. Was it Y2K? I don't remember. But anyway, after some discussion, so my wife and I communicated, we got on the same plan. We decided, hey, let's see what happens if we actually continue to tackle the debt of our house and see if we can pay that puppy off. So eventually we did. We got that sweet commission check, put it all in the house. One of the bubbles burst, and my dad said, hey, what did you end up doing with that money? I said, yeah, we paid our house off rather than investing. He's like, well, that actually was one of the wisest things you could have done because everything is crashing. So anyway, we got our start with the no debt early on, and it's been awesome ever since. So I would highly recommend you guys fight into that world of debt, especially if you're just starting now. What is it? Parkinson's law says that your resources will grow to eat up its available properties. So basically, if you don't put the money somewhere, you're going to spend it because you were just going to try to keep up with the Joneses. Anyway, so I am speaking from a place of I have been there and I've worked this plan. It's just like your fitness. It is not hard, but you do have to pay attention to it every day. So we're going to walk through this whole thing on what you can do, what are the pitfalls that you're going to find, and then what can you do to get out of debt. So the easy thing is use YNAB, use a budget, have delayed gratification. The hard thing is everything else we're going to talk about. So Sanjoy, this one is particularly for you because I know you've been saying, hey, I'd love to hear that Getting Out of Debt podcast. And so here it is. I know a couple of you guys were also asking for it. I will do another one eventually one day with someone from YNAB so you can understand that tool a bit better. Of course, you can just hit a YouTube video and watch it. I'll potentially do another one with Aaron and Matt because, obviously, if you don't know, they are into the financial world. They help you keep your money through wise investments and more. And so I'll probably do a podcast with them because everyone should be a bit wiser. I always feel like in the world of financial, that this game of the finances, I feel a little underprepared because I'm an engineer. I know how things work and I can figure things out and how they work. And I love systems and so forth, but I don't really know anything about the financial world. So if you said, hey, Andy, what is your EBITDA? I mean, like, I don't even know. I do know what that is, but that's just not stuff that I typically roll in. Do you need to know that stuff? No. If you really want to get into this stuff and do well, hire a mentor. Always shortcut the stuff by hiring someone that already knows what they're doing. Okay, so here we go. There are various types of debt out there, and you should avoid these or be wise about them. The first that really nails most people, and it's surprising, is, well, maybe not surprising. The amount is surprising. So credit card debt. I think maybe a few years ago, it was like, hey, the average American has $5,000 in credit card debt. Now it's like, or then it became 8,000 and now it's like 12,000 or something. So people are just nailing their credit cards tremendously. I know there are tons of rewards out there and you can have all these cards and they do various things. My advice to you would be screw the rewards and just get one card and pay attention to what's happening on that card. Yeah. So I guess something that's, it seems obvious to me now, but maybe it wasn't to me as a kid or as a 20-year-old, but the credit card company is going to make money when you miss that payment. If you use a credit card, get to a place where you can pay it off in full every month. Yeah, I know it's tough, but work your way there. So we're going to talk about some strategies later on, but don't get caught in that high interest rate of credit cards. So when you miss, they're like, thank you very much. We just made a ton of money. So when they offer you rewards, there's two ways that they're paying for that. One is you guys being late. So, hey, I missed a payment. I didn't pay it all, whatever. And they're going to charge you. Yeah, you're going to get some of that back. So yay, you got a percentage of your 20% fee back. Man, that stinks, right? The other way is they charge vendors. So like me at the garage, when we run a credit card, they charge us somewhere between like 3.5% to like 6%, depending on the credit card and whatever. But so we have to pay a fee also in order for the privilege of running a card rather than using checks or I guess cash, right? So watch out for your credit cards. The first step here would be if you have tons of them, get rid of them. Just have one or two. So here's what I do. I've got 2 credit cards. One I use for I keep in my wallet and I use for everything. And it's one of those cool little Ridge wallets. So I just have a few cards in there. And then I have one that I leave in my desk that I use for reoccurring purchases that I don't want to have to reset up if I ever lose the card. So I do have 2 cards. One is in my wallet. If we lose it, no biggie. It's just replaceable. There's nothing, auto drafting on it. And the other one is, I think they actually make it easier now. If you lose a card and you get a new one, that they'll just auto port them, which kind of stinks. So if you've got, this comes up later on, but if you've got subscriptions that you don't know about, and shame on you if you do have subscriptions that you don't know about, that's just silly. Know what you're spending your money on. But one way to get out of some of those subscriptions is to, hey, I lost my credit card, and tell the credit card company, do not transfer my payments to the next credit card. So you have to call them and tell them that. Otherwise, they do automatically. And it happens to us at the gym all the time. People, I guess they don't understand that we don't have contracts. And all you have to do is say, hey, Andy, I'm no longer going to be at the gym. I'm like, great. And I click a button. It's literally that easy. You just click a button and you're done. So what they'll do instead is they'll say, hey, I lost my credit card. And then they don't tell us they're quitting. And they're like, well, my credit card's no longer on file. And so I'm like, you didn't have to do all that. There's no contracts. I know most gyms do have contracts. I actually got a call from a girl earlier and she was like, tell me what your setup fees are. I'm like, they're none. She's like, well, tell me what the teardown fees, like the quitting fees are. I'm like, there aren't any. She's like, well, what's the contract? I'm like, there isn't one. She's like, that's impossible. Every gym has one. And she said, I'm fighting right now, the gym I'm at, because their contract is unreasonable and actually illegal. And I'm like, yeah, we don't do any of that. So actually, I don't even know if she's a member of the gym. Yeah, this just happened like within the last week. But anyway, it's just funny. So watch out for your debt, right? Watch out for that credit card. All right, next one is student loan. So, man, I'm going to say it. No, everyone dances around this subject. Do not go to a college that costs too much, and do not get a degree that isn't going to ever pay you back. So, man, I know I don't understand many things about the world. I get it. I'm a nerd from Georgia Tech that loves health and fitness. And so, yes, sometimes humans baffle me, right? But I do know this. If you're going to get a degree in, I don't know, dance, man, the chances of that paying off are really not great. And especially if you're going to go out of state and pay a ton of money for a degree in dance, it's probably not going to go well, right? You don't need a degree in dance to start your own dance business. So instead, what I would do is like, look, if you're going to go to school for 4 years for dance and then try to start your own business, how about this? Just go work for someone who has their own dance studio for 4 years. Realize you're not going to get paid much and be like, whatever, it's my education. I'm not losing money paying it to the college and have to pay it back. And they're paying me some, right? Volunteer to do all sorts of stuff. Learn everything you can about that business. Take 4 years and say, Mrs. Dancing Queen, I'm going to start my own business in 4 years. I would like to work for you for 4 years and learn everything I possibly can about your business, from cleaning the toilets to running credit cards to scheduling the kids to come dance, right? I promise you that entrepreneur is going to cry and say, you're the hero I've been waiting for. Even if it's only going to be 4 years and she knows you're going to quit on her, it doesn't matter. It's going to be awesome. And she's going to love it. You're going to love it, or he or whoever the owner is. Okay. Next one. Mortgage debt. We kind of just covered that. They always will say you can buy more house than I feel like you ever should really buy. There is a number that they say, hey, this is the target. I just don't. I would reduce it by half. And if you have to, move further out, right? Or rent for a little bit, right? You could do smart things. I just really, and I get that I am different on this. People say, yeah, but you can deduct your mortgage from taxes. Great. So you're paying percentages in this interest rate, right? So you're deducting the interest that you've paid out. How about just save the money and don't pay interest, right? So mortgage debt, the thing, I would fight to get rid of that as much as possible. I know it goes against the grain, but I am telling you, it is so worth it. Okay, next one is auto loans. Probably the biggest thing I can tell you here is it is dumb to have a car payment that is almost equal to a house payment. Just don't do that. I would probably never buy a new car again. So my advice would be that to you. Don't buy new. Buy something that's a couple years old, because when you drive it off the lot, it loses money dramatically. I think the thing that I would love to try, I just haven't really gotten there yet, is on my car, sign up for to be an Uber driver or a Lyft driver or whatever. And if I'm going to go somewhere, start the app and see if there's somebody that's going that direction. And if there is, go pick them up and let them pay you for the ride that you're going to take anyway. So I think they even have a way to set it up where, like, let's say you live in Snow Mountain and you're like, yeah, I'll just take whatever rides I've got. And you end up out here in Woodstock. You can say, I want to go home. I only want to pick up people going in that direction. And it only shows you that stuff. So anyway, it's a way to kind of make a car work for yourself. A car is a unique thing. I don't even know if in today's time you need it. I still love the freedom of being able to jump in your car and go wherever you want. And I go a lot of places that I don't think Uber drivers would ever want to go. But I mean, if you didn't have a car payment or have to pay for insurance, then man, Uber might be a great way to go, especially if you're working from home. Could you actually get away with not having a car for a while? So it'd be interesting. Sell your car and see if you can live without it for a year. Anyway, auto loans. Try to pay those off as fast as possible and try never to buy new. Personal loans. I don't know if I'm a fan of this one, and I know people that do it, but and I've even done it. But I'm going to tell you this: if you are the person doing the personal loan, you're either going to get your money back or your friend back. You're not going to get both of them back. Or better said, you're going to lose one or the other. You're either going to lose the money you lent or you're going to lose the friend that you thought you had. So I'd just stay away from personal loans. And then there's medical debt. Some of it is unavoidable. I have a genetic condition. I have a thing, and it's just, it's there. I can't, right? So there is that. Now, I will say that even with some things that are genetic, you can do the next thing. And yeah, I'm not a doctor and this isn't medical advice. It's just me from anecdotal evidence in my 50 years of life. I don't exist when it comes to doctors. They have a confirmation bias that everyone in the world is sick because everyone that comes in is sick and they need me. So they have confirmed their own bias. Everyone in the world is sick. I don't exist to them because I don't go to the doctor. I went to Yancey a couple of years ago to get some blood drawn so we could take a peek at that. And that was about it. I think I went in for an MRI on my knee after it'd been 5 years and was feeling pretty good. And I thought, well, maybe I'll get it looked at again and see what they say. So I did go because I don't have access to an MRI, but so to check out my knee. But beyond that, I don't take any pills. A doctor doesn't see me. There's nobody. I guess I do have to go in and do what is it? When you're 50, there's a couple things they want you to do. My dad did have, prostate cancer. So I obviously want to get those things checked out. What is a PSA and your blood count and all that. But many times they're using pills to cover symptoms rather than actually having solutions to cure the problem. So I'd watch out for that. If you're taking a pill for, I don't know, let's say high cholesterol, well, could you eat better? I mean, probably the answer is yes. Could you exercise and fix that? I mean, probably the answer is yes. So I'm going to be talking about getting out of debt, but I'm going to tell you, pay for your health and fitness. I would rather pay the $200 to be part of a CrossFit gym and continue my longevity and health and fitness than pay the $200 to the pill doctor for a prescription that I need because my cholesterol is high or my blood pressure is high or whatever. There are things you can literally do that don't cost you anything, like exercise. Just go jog or eat better, right? Actually, I take that back. Those might cost you, right? You can do all this on your own, but when you eat better food, that will cost you more money. I'm going to pause this and drink some coffee. All right, here we go. Get my throat wet. All right, so medical debt, that's a tough one. The other thing you can do, and you can do this in any of them, but medical especially, you can tell them if you can accumulate enough money and say, hey, look, I have a lump sum. I can pay you this if you give me that discount. And a lot of times they take it, right? That's when they take your debt. Anybody takes your debt and turns it over to a collection agency. They want to collect your debt, but then they're going to get paid on some of that debt. So let's say, I don't know, you owe $10,000 and it goes to an agency. Something like 20% of the amount they collect is going to be theirs, and then they're going to pay the other bit back to the original. Or they buy the debt and say, hey, they owe you $10,000. We're going to pay you $2,000 for the right to collect that debt. And so there's an amount that they want to make over, right? So you could probably say, hey, it's 10,000. I have 5,000 right now. I will give you 5,000 if you clear this debt. And a lot of times they say yes, because they're just headhunters. They're just out there, or debt collectors, right? They just want to clear that and make some revenue on the risk that they purchased. So you can do that with medical. You can do that with many things. Not usually the credit cards. I got another thing for that one. Okay. So those are the types of debt. Probably the worst debt. I had a buddy who got a personal loan from Jimmy down the road, and it turned out later on that Jimmy could loan out money because he was actually loaning mob money out. So yes, that still exists, and it can still be legal. It's personal loans, but if you like your kneecaps, don't go down that road. There's just too many bad things that happen. Just go without. Don't do that. Okay, so here are some common pitfalls to avoid, and maybe some things you can do. We're going to do some pitfalls first, and then I'm going to walk through the, especially the Dave Ramsey method of getting out of debt. Talk a little bit about YNAB. So if you're not tracking your expenses, you are in for hurting. So easy way to track it is to use YNAB, or You Need a Budget software. Just go online and look it up. And you link it to your accounts, you download it, and I use it every day. I go in there, I hit refresh, I use it for the gym, and I use it for my rental properties, and I use it for our personal life. I've even got all 4 of my kids looking at it. Now, my wife doesn't look at it because that's my job. We are a partnership. Well, I mean, more than that, but she does some things that I will never do, and I do some things that she will never do, right? So this is how we divide up our life. But I would say if you could pass this on to your kids, why not, right? So I've been having them track or reconcile. Like in the old days, you would reconcile your checkbook. I don't think they really do that anymore. I think I wrote my first check this year, and it is August 10th. So it went a very long time. It was actually kind of funny. So let me back this one up. So I had new tires put on my truck, my used truck, and the guy said, hey, you can either bring your credit card and I'll run it, but there's going to be a 3% charge. Now, again, he's a vendor. Why is there a 3% charge? Because they're going to charge him probably 3.5 or 4% to use that credit card. So he's willing to eat a little bit of the percentage, but not all of it. So he said, or bring in cash or a check and there's no 3% charge. So I'm like, heck yeah, I'm bringing you a check. And of course I had to go find it. And then I had to remember how to write, write in cursive because I don't really write that much anymore. Anyway, so, track your expenses. YNAB will let you download it. You can create categories or use the ones that they've already got. This summer, I helped my kids move from just reconciling to, all right, we've done this for a year. Let's go back and look and see how much you spent and create a budget around that. So one good part was I kept telling them, look, you're spending too much. And yes, I could just not give them that money, but I knew this was coming. And this was part of our experiment or my experiment. And, my parenting has changed over time. Never, I don't know, don't give up, keep growing, try different things. You're never going to be perfect, but you can keep moving towards better. So we sat down with each kid and we talked about what they spent. And when it came to the eating out, every one of them was like, oh, dang. I'm like, yeah. So you don't notice when you spend $5, $6, $7 at Starbucks. And this is going to come up later on, but it adds up. So if you're not tracking, then you don't know. And the next one is going to be relying on mental accounting. So we talked about this. I said, you didn't think you spent that because you kept tracking your head. They're like, yeah, I didn't think I thought it was probably like a tenth of that. I'm like, well, that's really bad, but at least we see it. So one, do not rely on mental accounting. You're never going to remember. So when we tell people, hey, what do you eat? And they're like, I eat pretty good. I'm like, great. Would you journal that for me? And they're like, yeah, okay, I'll try to journal it. And then when they do, and we look at it, they're like, dang, I did not realize I'm eating all of this stuff outside the bounds of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or even at those meal times, I'm like, I didn't realize I was eating so much. I'd just reach over and grab more fries or whatever. So writing it down or journaling it, or like we do here at the gym, we use Wodify to track our results. Why? Because if you're tracking it, you will see what the movement is. If you're not tracking anything, then, it's like, well, hey, Timmy, how do you feel? I don't know. I feel pretty good. Like, okay, I guess it's all working. But if you could actually track your results, then you know. So anyway, we use YNAB. My kids are using it now. Olivia just ran into a great problem. So she said, I would like to pay my own rent at college. I'm like, perfect. I love this. You're going to have to pay rent somewhere anyway, and it'll get it off my plate. I love it. Let's do it. So money does not grow on trees, but many of our kids don't understand where it comes from. Olivia is a chemical engineer at Auburn, and she is bright, but I have failed and never really taught her exactly how money works. So every time she's used her account, I can go into to log in online and look and see where their money is and see like, oh, she's got like $10 left. I'll go ahead and add some more money. And is it the right way to do it? No, that's just what I was doing. So anyway, so she says, I want to do my own rent. I'm like, perfect. Her rent is $700. I'm like, all you have to do is she want the landlord to like a check kicked out so you can do an online bill pay. And we walked through it. She's like, show me how. I'm like, great. This is how we do it. So I knew she had like $200 in her account. And then she backed it up. I said, look, it takes 5 days for the check to get there. Your landlord wants it there on the 1st. So as a landlord myself, I would tell you getting a check there on the 1st is not great. Let's go a day or two early. She's like, okay, perfect. Especially if it's a weekend, right? You want to miss that. So let's try to get it to arrive 3 days early. She's like, okay, got it. I said, and it takes 5 days to get the check through the mail. So that's 8 days now we're ahead. And if you try to send it on the weekend, you're going to be delayed because the banks don't operate on the weekend. So now we're at 8 plus 2. Now we're at 10 days. She's like, perfect. I'm going to send this check out on the 20th. And that'll take care of every day or every month except when we have a February because of 28 days. I'm like, that'll be fine. It'll be okay. And so I forgot. She set it up and she sent it out. But there was like $200 in the account. The check is for $700. She gets an alert and it says, hey, you can't do this check because you didn't have enough money. And I have told them time and time again, most of those alerts are just phishing attempts to get your account. Don't do anything with it. If you have a question, ask me. So she saw this pop up and thought, looks like a phishing attempt. If they want me to click on something, I'm not going to do it. She got busy, forgot to ask me about it. I didn't know to ask her about it. Landlord calls up on the 5th and says, hey, where's my rent? And she's like, uh-oh. I hadn't put any money into her account because I didn't really think about the fact that she was going to send that check out. So our systems weren't on. Anyway, the point was learned. Money does not grow on trees. Money is not in your account automatically. You cannot send out a check for money you don't have. Now, on the flip side, if she did it on a credit card, that's credit. You could totally do that, right? And the credit card's like, great, you don't have the money. Now you just spent not just the $700, but 20% interest. So what is that? 10% of 770. So yeah, like 140 extra dollars for the privilege of the credit card company just to do that. Okay. So track everything. Have a budget. We'll talk about that in a minute. Don't rely on mental accounting, right? It's like nutrition journaling. Don't ignore the small purchases. We just talked about the fact that a Starbucks purchase every day for like a $6 coffee or whatever it is you're buying. I know they're typically more than that. is going to be about 2,000. I did the math and now I don't see where I did it. But if you spend $6 a day every day at Starbucks, you're going to spend $2,190, something like that. If you were at the gym, our gym, and working out, you're basically going to spend roughly the same amount. So it's like buying a coffee every day for $6. So which one do you really find is aiming you towards your goals? And this is a big part of it. What are your goals? If your goal is to have the best, funnest life you could possibly have now, damn the consequences, and I just hope the future works out. If I live with my kids or my uncle, then whatever. Okay, sure, spend all the money you want. That's just not a great way to do it. So you also have to fight something like inflation, right? So your money loses value over time if you leave it in money. So you want to make it work for you. Spending money that you have on things that you know you want now is actually totally fine. Like I think it comes up later on, but like bulk paying in rent. I've actually told my the landlords for the gym, hey, I am willing to pay. What do we owe? It's like $5,000 a month. So I'm willing to give you, instead of $60,000, I will give you $55,000 right now if you'll knock off a month of rent. And so far they've said no, but I'd be happy to do it. So I'm saving myself money. I'm going to spend that money anyway, right? So could I use it for something else? Sure. But I know I've got to spend it and I've got to have it. I would have to, it would be hard to come up with $55,000 that quick. If they said yes, I would probably take a little bit of time, but it's not impossible, especially if you live for a very long time debt free. So I'm 50. We've been debt free for a pretty long time, and it does build up. It is fascinating how much it changes the things you can do. We've even given to other people who've had hard times and just like figured out where their mortgage was and paid their mortgage rather than paying our own mortgage because we didn't have one. And we could do stuff like that, right? Anyway, okay. So don't neglect the small purchases. They add up. This is why you want to track stuff. You can track it on your phone. And this disgusts me. There's a service out there now, an app you can download that says, hey, we'll find the subscriptions that you have that you don't know about. Dude, seriously, if you have subscriptions that you're paying for that you don't know about, that's just insane. You should know what you're paying for. Download the stuff and look. It's not that hard. There's a whole bunch of videos on this, and I do have a lady that I'm going to bring on eventually, and we're going to go through YNAB and how it works. I used it. I've told my kids to use it. They're like, how do you use it? I'm like, fascinating. There are videos that'll teach you everything, so go learn on your own. Anyway, so the next one is don't neglect those automatic payments. Make sure you understand what you're paying for. I guess I'll say it now. I had it as a bullet point later on. So yes, we are pretty well off. Yes, I could have lots of TV show apps, or what do you call them? Streaming services. I have told my family, you get one streaming service pick. And they're like, well, we want Disney Plus because I want to see The Mandalorian. I'm like, well, no. Or great, but then we're getting rid of YouTube. Not YouTube, Netflix. They're like, well, actually, I want Netflix because I want to watch Stranger Things. I'm like, take your pick. You could have one. And I just drew the line. What do you guys want? Now, my daughter being very clever, Olivia figured out that because we're we have our phones through AT&T, AT&T gives you either Showtime or HBO or one of those old pay-per-view services from the 80s. They give you that. That's not for free. There's a deal worked in there somewhere. I'm sure I'm paying for it somehow. And so she figured out how to get another service through another service, right? So good on Olivia for being creative. Just like Levi in the other story, I said no. And they said, let me think about it. What else could I do? And they just asked around and figured out there was another solution to the problem rather than just buying another service. So watch out for those automatic payments. Do you actually need that automatic payment? Do you have, how many times, how much in the day can you really watch TV or watch episodes or stream stuff? Right? You can't. There's some, well, I don't know if they even call it this anymore. So when I was a kid, Thursday night was prime time, right? So 6, 7, 8, 9, that block of time was when all the best shows were. There was must-see TV on Thursday, and you would watch, the Cosbys and, I don't know, A-Team, whatever. The best shows were in that Thursday spot because Friday night people are out. Monday through Wednesday, they're working and doing sport. I don't know what they're doing. But Thursday was the day that everybody sat in front of the TV together, which I don't even know if that exists anymore, and vegged out in front of the TV, right? So be conscious of that. The next thing is watch out for your impulse buying. I mentioned this earlier, delayed gratification. I think this is huge. They actually talked about in one of the books, maybe Atomic Habit or Power of Habit, but they do the cookie thing with the kids. So they have found that, and I did this with my kids as well. They have found if you can teach kids delayed gratification and you measure them later on in life, you're going to find that they're going to have better high school grades because of that delayed gratification. So they weren't teaching the kids delayed gratification. They were just seeing which kids had it. And it goes something like this. They put a kid in the room, there's a cookie on a plate, and they say, hey, if you cannot eat that cookie for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then I will give you 2 cookies and you can have both. And so some kids were like, yeah, whatever, and they just ate the cookie. Other kids did various things, built willpower, built structure around the idea of, I am not going to eat that because I know the reward is even greater, it's double in fact, if I can just wait. Some kids would like sniff it. Other kids would like look away like it doesn't exist. So I did something similar to my kids. I was the cookie man. I'd make the bread Becker's cookies, these Ranger cookies, which are awesome. And I would put them down in front of my kids. They're steaming hot, the smell. I put milk out there. I'm like, you can have 1 cookie right now. Or I'd set a stopwatch. Like, if you wait 5 minutes, I'll give you 2 cookies. And man, I think it might have been Evie. She grabbed the cookie and then the other kids were like, no, don't do it. He will give you 2 cookies. So she had chocolate all over her hands. She's like, I said, don't eat the chocolate either. You have to wait. So all of my kids learned the idea of delayed gratification from this cookie project. Is it helpful? I don't know. They have pretty good grades through high school and doing pretty good in college. They're all shooting for STEM. They've all scored higher than 30 on their ACT. Well, not Evie. She hasn't taken that yet. So delayed gratification is huge. Going back to impulse buying. If you see it and you're like, oh, I really want that, don't get it. Put a note in your phone. I really wanted the Nintendo Switch. Great. Put a date on it. If in a week you still want it, maybe go get it. Or if in a month you still want it. But if you haven't thought about it in that month, then you don't really want it. So impulse buying is very bad for many things, especially your budget. Don't do it. All right. Next one is, I've already talked about using your credit card. Use it unwisely. It's not free money. And I told you Olivia's rent story. So they give you that opportunity to use money because they are making tons of money on all the people who can't pay off their credit cards. So watch out. It is not out of the goodness of their heart that they lend you this credit. It's because they're coming after you and they want you to mess up. All right. Next, when you shop with a list, or the pitfall is, shopping without a list. So we use something called AnyList. I forgot, somebody at the gym actually gave me the idea, and we will put all the things in AnyList. So we've got a Publix category, we have Costco, we have Home Depot, whatever. And if anybody needs something, they put it in the list. Then if anybody goes to one of those stores, usually it's Publix, then you're supposed to go and buy everything on the list because people put it in there, right? So it's only got the things that we typically want. I actually will go, so I'm going to break my rule here. I have a hard time feeding the younger or my kids on things that they will be interested in. So they have started shopping, which has fixed a lot of it. But before that, I would go in the store and I'd buy 1 or 2 of something to see if they'd like it. Typically they didn't, but so sometimes shopping off the list is fine if you have a purpose or a goal for it. If it's just, I walked by the chocolate aisle and I'm going to grab the chocolate, well, then that's a problem, right? Typically, now this is totally different, but typically for us, we're shopping on the outside of the store. So we're buying things that if you unwrap it or there is no wrapper, then it's going to spoil and rot because that is actually food. I typically don't go up and down the aisles because most of that stuff is processed and it's not actually food anyway. So this is the part that's going to cost you a bit more. If you want to eat better, then yeah, it's going to cost you a bit more. I have another episode on know your food source and maybe try growing some of your food. I would recommend to everybody, buy a tomato plant from Costco or from Home Depot or wherever, or go to the Potpourri Farms down the street on Mondi Road and support a local grower. Buy something from him and then eat what it grows. And then now you're a farmer, right? Maybe not a farmer, but you're part of the production for your life. You're not always relying on something else, right? A tomato plant is pretty cheap. Tomatoes are actually, you could probably buy a tomato plant for less than the tomatoes you'd buy at the store. And now you've got your own tomatoes right there. So is it really saving money and is it a huge amount? Maybe not, but it starts you on the track of doing something rather than nothing. Okay. Next one is, not understanding how to budget for irregular expenses. I don't need tires on my car every year or every month. It's not going to happen all the time. I do need to do an oil change in my car, but it's going to be variable depending on how much I drive. So you should, if you use YNAB, you need a budget now, you can set up categories to start funding that because you know it's coming. If you don't know it's coming, but it's come before, then you're just being an idiot, right? So for example, in the gym, I have to pay every year insurance. It's just a one fee and it's big. And I have to pay our CrossFit affiliate fee. It's just a one thing I do, once a year, and it's pretty big. But I know they're coming. I've budgeted for it. So when it comes up, I'm like, yep, here's your money, right? So if you fall victim to, oh man, it's an irregular expense, and I didn't really track it or understand it, then that is a pitfall that you need to, it's not that difficult to say. You can even do, here's what I do. I put a lot of things I put in my Google Calendar, like with the kids and their tuition. I don't have that specifically budgeted because we set up 529s. So, but I do want to pay those, right? So I have to, in my calendar, it says like, there's like 3 places where it says, go online and pay their tuition. Go online and pay their tuition. So it's in the calendar to remind me to go do it. That's a good way to do it as well, right? It's irregular. I also have things to remind me to go into Georgia Gov to pay sales tax for the things that you guys buy at the gym. So I got to pay tax on that. So yes, you pay tax, but then I also pay tax because I'm paying, right? So that's how it all works. So that's quarterly now, and I always forget to do it, but it always comes up. So I just put it in there. Now, that's not a specific thing that I've set a budget for, because if you've paid it, then I have the money to pay it. So I'll set that aside in I guess I did set it aside. It's in our taxes envelope, if you will. It's not an envelope, it's a bank account. I'm going to talk about that later. But anyway, so shop with a list, budget irregular expenses, and so there's another good one that's not here yet, but create a or emergency fund. So Dave Ramsey is big on this, and I love it. His emergency fund is a little bit different than what we're talking about here. This is just, I have a category in YNAB called stuff I forgot to budget for, and I use it all the time, which is irritating. So I try to do better, and I'll categorize it, but if it comes up, it goes in there. The other one is not reviewing a bill. You should go and look at your bills every once in a while to see exactly what they're charging you. Sometimes they added something in, or as my daughter just found out, she downloaded an app and said, hey, you can try it for free. How to identify plants, like, put the camera on the leaf and it'll tell you. You get a 30-day free trial. And she's like, yeah, I'll remember to cancel it. And she didn't remember to cancel it, right? So we got charged for a app that she didn't really want, but she said yes to. So good lesson to learn. She's learned, okay, when they do that sort of thing, it's to trick us, to make us actually use it and forget about it, or use it once and then forget about it so they can keep collecting on us. So the next thing is, actually, we're going to kind of change up a little bit. So if you're a couple or have a family and you don't communicate, that's a problem. So one of the biggest failures in communication is to think you've communicated, but actually failed to. So make sure you sit down and talk about money. I talk about money with my kids all the time. They find it weird when they find out that their friends and their family never talk about money, especially, they go to Fellowship Christian. Most of the kids are pretty well off, and they have no idea where money comes from or what mom or dad does. And, oh, look, I got a great car. I don't know how or why. And I don't do that with my kids. And they're like, Dad, they just don't get it. That's it. Just have a talk. Show them your budget. Show them your finances. Why not, right? Help them understand. They're going to be an adult soon. The next one is, and this is a Dave Ramsey thing, use the, this is maybe not a pitfall, but this is something that you can do, is use the envelope method. So this is putting money aside in envelopes. I don't actually use the envelopes. I don't use cash. It's a little more old school, and I'm kind of old school, but I don't use it. I use the profit first method, which is using bank accounts. So in our bank, we actually just opened up other accounts, and I move money into those accounts. So it's the envelope method, except it's bank accounts, okay? Use your alerts. So this was good. I mentioned how Olivia got an alert and said, hey, you can actually send that check. So yes, I did tell him most of the time it's a phishing attempt, so watch out. But you can set up those alerts, use them. If you get texts from a number, add it to your phone so you know that it's real, right? So that doesn't come up and be like, oh, I forgot, but that's actually really the bank. And I do love it when they're like, hey, did you actually just spend money in Mexico? And you're like, I'm not even in Mexico. No. So those are good alerts, right? So we're going to talk about creating a budget. That's going to be a big part of it. It's really not that hard to do, but creating a budget is following the budget is a hard thing to do. Creating the budget is not. Creating the budget is you can look at your expenses, divide them up into the budget, create monthly bits that you have to pay for, because usually we all get paid in that month format. And then that becomes your budget, right? That's not the greatest way to do it. That's just putting all of your money, making every dollar work for something. What would be great is to also save some money. So you want to spend less than you make. That's how you actually get out of debt and win at this thing, right? Okay, so if you can't make it fit, so you're spending more than you make, that's okay too. This is just when the work begins, and we're going to talk about that. This seems like a no-brainer, but weirdly, how many people don't get this one? Prioritize your needs over your wants. You know, I need to pay rent. I want to go to the movies, right? So needs versus want. What do you actually need to do? I don't really need all of those streaming services. I want them, but I don't need them. One is good enough, or zero, because you can watch YouTube for free, right? In my notes, I said, stop buying crap. So yes, just a thing that I've heard, man, who did I hear this from? Oh, it was maybe the Fly Lady. I don't know. It was something, but go through your house, find things that you haven't touched in a year, put them in boxes. If after a year you still haven't touched them or missed them, then get rid of them, sell them. That makes some money that way. Somebody wants the crap that you have and they're willing to buy it. Put it on eBay, put it on Facebook Marketplace or whatever. People want your junk and I don't know why, right? So they want the things that you're not using. We already talked about the subscription trap. Just be very careful of that. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to go through is how to get out of debt. I'm going to pause here, get a little bit of coffee. Dave Ramsey, who I love, is big on the debt snowball method. And I love it as well, and I recommend it for everybody. My mind says use the debt avalanche method, but that one's a harder one to do because there's not an emotional pull. So you need the emotional pull, the success, the wins to help you going. So the debt snowball is, you look at all your debts. You find the smallest one, and you're like, I am going to pay that puppy off. And then I'm going to take the proceeds and pay the next one off. So you snowball, you get a little thing and it keeps growing and growing and growing and growing, right? So let's say you have I'm going to make up numbers here. You have $100 debt, $1,000 debt, $10,000 debt, and $100,000 debt, right? So you focus on the $10 debt first, pay that one off. Then you take the money that you were paying into that and start adding it to the $100 one. And then when that one gets done, you add it to the 1,000 and then the 10,000, and then that's rolling into the 100,000. It is fascinating the number of stories that, well, and maybe this is a confirmation bias, the number of stories that Dave Ramsey has about people getting out of debt in under 2 years, in under 5 years, and it's massive debt, right? It's because when you put a focus on it and then use the debt snowball, you see these wins, you see the psychology of, hey, we can do this. It's an emotionally persuasive way to do it. The other way is the debt avalanche method. And in that one, you do what any engineer would say is, hey, what's your worst one? And it doesn't even have to be the most money. It's the one with the worst percentage. And you go to pay that one off first. So you take the money and you drive it into, let's say you have a 20% card that you're paying on. Pay that one off. You're going to do the same thing in reverse, but because it's 20%, it costs you more money, right? So if you've got loans and percentage-wise, say one loan's costing you 5, the other's costing you 10%, the other's costing you 50%, and then you got one loan or debt that is 30%. If you hit that one first, then you'll reduce the interest payments that you're paying out on all these things. So I like that one better, but I totally get that it doesn't work as effectively because the emotional grab of paying things off doesn't happen until you finally get the big one. So you're doing the hardest one first, and sometimes it can feel like you're pushing the boulder uphill. You just can't make it, right? So I love the debt avalanche method mentally, but I understand that the debt snowball is going to work emotionally better on almost everybody out there. So try debt snowball. If you're not sure how to do it, it's literally what I just said, or just go Google debt snowball, Dave Ramsey, get his book. He'll show you exactly what to do. Okay, so another good one you can do is actually negotiate with creditors. Kind of mentioned that earlier in the pitfalls, but creditors, especially ones that are just collectors, are just looking to make money on the money. So they bought your debt and now they're trying to make money on it. If you're going for somebody else, like you can actually call up your credit card company and say, hey, I'd like better terms. I do that with our gym, CrossFit Garage. I will call up, at the time it was Go Merchant, and it was hilarious. I would say, hey, I need a better rate. And they're like, why? Because I want one. They're like, okay. And then she would say, here's what I can do for you. Is that good enough? I'm like, interesting. She said good enough. And so to play with it, I said, no, I need better. She's like, okay. And so typically you have to give them something for the thing you want. So she's like, if you resign for, instead of a 1 year, for a 2 year, I can give you better terms. I'm like, okay, well, I plan to be with them for 2 years anyway. So, they get loyalty, I get a better rate. And that's another one you could actually usually ask many of them is, I've been a loyal customer for this long. Can you do something for me? And they're like, yeah, sure. You can do that with your cable company. You could do that with your cell phone. I mean, there's so many things. I know it's a phone call, and in 2023, not many people actually want to get on the phone, but if you can talk to a living person and just tell them, hey, I've been a loyal customer for 10 years with my cell phone bill. Can you do something for me in my bill? They probably have a script written out that is, hey, if somebody calls and does that, yeah, just give them 5% and see if it works. Hey, 5% is great. The worst they can do is say no, and then you're back to where you were. No big deal, right? So take the time to do it. Okay. I think this is probably the biggest point of a budget or getting a handle of your finances, and it's going to be cut unnecessary expenses. And what does that mean to you? So if you don't know your future goals, then this one right here is going to be impossible. You're just going to spend money and just spend money because go look at Parkinson's law. You're going to see that. You're just going to end up spending your money. So first you need to figure out, what are your goals? So Stephen Covey says, do it this way. Imagine you are dead and they are either reading your tombstone or they're doing the, what do they call it? The epitaph, it's your last sermon. I don't know what it's called. What are they going to say about you? What do you want them to say about you? So if you know what you want them to say about you, that begins your goals or your focus, right? So an easy one would be something like, I would love for them to say, he was honest, he loved his family, and he was helpful. I don't know, those three things. Okay, so I'm honest and helpful, and I love my family. All right, now we can make some choices. I have the opportunity to go, I don't know, let's make it really crazy, to go to the dog races and bet some money. Does that have anything to do with those three? No. So the easy answer then becomes, no, I don't want to do that, right? So you could say no to a lot of things once you know what your goals and your drives are. If you don't have them, then you're just going to be subject to somebody else's goals, drives, and motivation. So figure that out first, right? I know that one of my long-term goals is I want to be healthy and fit enough to coach my kids in soccer or whatever sport. Basically saying I want to be a super active grandparent. What does that mean? Well, I better be able to move my own body. I should probably be able to lift stuff like a kid. I better have the ability to run, move, have balance. I better have good cognitive ability. So this is like one of the primary reasons I do CrossFit is there has been some studies that they've done that shows not only CrossFit will get you healthy and fit. Yes, of course, that's why we do it. But also in my family, there's Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, however you say that. And they have shown that because CrossFit recruits more motor patterns than many other things, it's actually creating gray matter and will hold off or even reverse. There's a great article on CrossFit.com. If you go Google, I think it's Alzheimer's, or maybe it's Parkinson's. I don't know. It's one of those. If you Google it and say, hey, CrossFit and Parkinson's, the article will come up, but it's reversed some of the problems with those two diseases. So yes, I want those things reversed. I don't want them. I also know hey, I don't eat sugar. Why? Because I want to live a long time. My dad has been plagued with skin cancers as well as prostate cancer, other stuff. I am half genetic my dad, right? So he's given me half of whatever. Possibly I have those markers. I don't know, but somebody said cancer eats sugar to grow. Okay, whatever. I'm done with sugar. Yeah, that's a pretty hard line, but it's things that I do. So now when someone says, hey, Andy, you want this dessert? No. Why? Because I have a goal out there. I know where I want to be. This is the same thing for your finances. Know your goals, know where you want to be. Cut the unnecessary stuff, right? So I spent this year, more than that, but I spent at least $15,000 on mentorship. Why? Because I want to shortcut the process of getting to my next entrepreneurial endeavor and do better with what I'm already doing. The best way to do that is to hire someone who's already been there or is doing that with other people. He's mentoring them. I'm going to shortcut the 3 or 4 years it's going to take me to get there, right? So I am learning a whole lot about storage facilities, about Airbnbs, about Bitcoin, about whatever, right? So I shortcut the process by hiring a mentor. Is that an unnecessary expense? Man, I had a hard time spending that money on myself. I talked to a couple people. One guy was super wise and he said, hey, if you believe it's going to do what you say it's going to do and your son or daughter, whatever, or your wife had the same desires as you, would you buy it for them? I'm like, hell yeah, in a moment. So he said, well, your problem isn't that you don't want to buy it. It's just you don't want to buy it for you. So you don't like to spend money on yourself. I'm like, dang, you know what? That's actually true. I don't like to spend money on myself. I will wear the same shoes until my heels are popping through the heel spot because I just don't want to buy more shoes. I don't want to spend money on myself. So that was an interesting insight into myself. So is it worth it? Yes. Is it an unnecessary expense? No, it's going to give me exactly what I want as long as I put the time and energy into it. I spend money on my own health right now. I own the gym and I still spend money and I'm totally okay. Like I fronted the money to buy a fan to put it up on the ceiling, knowing the gym will pay me back over time. I put my name on the security backing, the collateral for the, whatever, 5-7 years, whatever the lease term is, at $60,000 a year. So if everybody said we're out of here, I'm still going to have to pay for that. I am willing to do that because this is the health and fitness that I want. The side benefits of what we're getting are great, but I am getting exactly part of my plan, which is health and fitness. So yes, I take that stuff seriously and I'm willing to put into those things. Now, I don't do a lot of things that make no sense to me, right? So I don't go sailing. I don't have a sailboat because I have no interest in it and it doesn't promote my long-term goals. Now, I've got a buddy who would like to retire into a business where he gets to sail people. So he has a sailboat. Great, because that's part of his goal. So know your goals. If you don't know your goals, it's going to be very, very tough. Oh, and here is my example now for the coffee. This is where I wrote down that example. Essentially, a coffee a day is equivalent to going to most CrossFit gyms. So which one is getting what you want, right? So one bad habit that I picked up in that 2 weeks to flatten the curve over a year was I now drink coffee. And for my adventure races, I try to get off of coffee for the month. That way I can actually use caffeine to help me out in the race. But I was buying coffee at the store and I'd pay, I'm just getting black coffee. So it's super easy for them to make and they just pour it straight in there and I'm paying them $5 for a cup of coffee because now they want you to tip, even though they just poured coffee. They're like, hey, how much do you want to tip? It's funny. The tip choices are like 15, 20 or 25. There isn't like, I don't want to tip you because that was really easy. Why would I tip you? Right. But I make my own coffee. It's super easy. It like the cost goes down to like 30 cents. I don't use the Keurig because, I don't know. I just don't want to buy more stuff. So I just grind it. I buy the whole bean, grind it for what I would need to use and use it for the week and I'll grind up some more later. But I make my own. So yes, I still drink coffee, but I don't go out and buy it. I save myself that money. I put that money instead towards a CrossFit membership or whatever it is that you want to do, right? So be smart about those things. All right. Next one is increase your income. Yeah, of course. If you are spending too much and you get a debt, increase your income. The problem here is it doesn't have to be the way you think. A lot of people are like, oh, there needs to be a super crazy side hustle. Okay, so you don't really need a side hustle. It can be useful, but here are some easy ways to earn more money. Go to the owner of the company or your manager or their boss or whatever and say, hey, what else can I do to earn the company more money? And can I get a piece of that, right? Or do that work already and they're going to promote you if you're already doing the work that needs to be done. If you're in a commission position, that's easy. Just do more of what you're doing. Or like I used to do in my old sales job is I'd always go to the top 10 earners and say, hey, what did you do to earn that much money? And they would say, I did this. And then whatever of the 10, whatever was the common thing, I totally did that one. And then I picked the one that made the most sense with who I was. And I tried those things. And I mean, I had some really good sales years, not reinventing the wheel, just doing whatever it is the guys who already made money did. So I just, did their stuff. So a side hustle can work, but it usually takes a little bit of effort. And especially if you're doing something online like a drop ship or trying to build an audience, whatever, that's going to take time. You can do that now and let time be your friend, but it does take time. Another thing you could do that's pretty easy is a part-time job, doing something that you like. So let's say, I don't know, you really like going to the movies. Then get a part-time job at the theater and you could probably even watch some movies for free. So you could combine fun with part-time. So that's something. I don't really recommend that one because time is valuable and I'd rather come up with another way to use my time. But you may be younger, no spouse, no kids, and time isn't a big deal to you. That's one thing you do. I think asking anybody or any business in the thing that you love is a wise way to go. Like even if you're at the theaters, you could probably ask them, hey, is there any job that people need done or any contracting work that you need done that I could probably do? And they're like, I don't know. And they list their contracting stuff out. It may come up like we really need, I don't know, sound editing on this podcast we do. You're like, yeah, I could totally do that. I don't know, I'm making stuff up. But there may be something. And if you don't ask, you will never know. So just ask the place that you spend a lot of money at, what you can do. So for example, here at the gym, an easy one. Hey, Andy, what could I do to help you make more money and earn some back myself? I'm like, yeah, referrals. Okay, well, what do I need to do for referrals? Just bring people in that sign up. Well, how do I do that? Here's a bunch of, social media. You could just ask people. You could talk to people at your church. I'll set up a class just for you and your friends, whatever, right? But that is a way you could do that. How about another one at the gym? Andy, what things do you hate doing? Well, I really dislike cleaning. Okay, well, I could clean the gym. Great. We already have somebody doing that, but that's an option. Another one is you could lead your own specialty class, and it doesn't even have to be CrossFit related. Let's say, let's say Aaron, who has a really good bar muscle up, says, I would like to teach a bar muscle up clinic. I'm like, great. I would like to charge $50 to anybody that wants to come in, and we'll give them an hour. I'm like, okay. He could totally do that. I would probably charge him from the gym to say, hey, we're using stuff, so there's going to be some sort of split. But he just made some money, right? It could be, hey, using Aaron again, I would like to do a get out of debt class. Great. I want you to push it to your members, and then I'm going to charge this. Great. And that has nothing to do with the gym. So if he's not using my facilities, I would totally be like, yeah, totally. That's fine. Let's say you love to make bread. You use bread bakers up the street to make your bread. You're like, hey, I want to bring people to my house and teach them how to make bread. Can I do a class on that? And you blast it out to everybody that's local on your email list. I'm like, yeah, that'd be like 2,000 people that maybe come into your house. Well, probably not that many, but you get my point. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a sweaty thing. It could be just something that you know or like. And we use the audience here at the gym to help you out. Totally good, right? Another one that could be really easy is run an event. So when we were big into the event side. One of the banners is is the Garage Games. And so we were too early into the business, but we had a huge business doing events and helping other people do the events. And you could easily make if you did all the work, you could make somewhere in the nature of like $5,000 to $10,000, depending on what the event is about, for the work that you did. So that's one way. Or similarly, Natalie's got an awesome one. It's called My Cousin's Wedding. So she promotes us all year long, and I am going to help her with her business by saying, everybody in the gym, we are doing this next year. Sign up. So now we all know we're going, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. You get to dress up, you get to eat wedding cake, you get to drink alcohol if you want to, and you get an Uber home. But she has created her own side hustle in something that she really likes. Like, hey, I would like to go to more weddings. And now I'm going to use our audience to just help her, because why wouldn't I, right? So you might already have something that you do, and you're like, hey, I'd like help. Like, do you know locals? Yes, I have locals. I have like thousands of emails in Facebook that I can help you out with. So there are ways to hustle without like going crazy and doing things you hate, right? So look at that hustle. All right, so this doesn't happen to all of us, but if you get a windfall of any amount, so maybe some inheritance comes to you or you win a little bit of the lottery, be smart with that. Most lottery winners have less than they had like 2 to 5 years after winning the lottery because they just blow it all, so don't, right? One way that I have heard to help fix that is make it hard for yourself to use that money. One way to do it is to pay off things or buy assets. So let's say, I don't know, you got $100,000 from Uncle Timmy. He died, and he's like, you were my favorite nephew, niece, whatever. Here's $100,000. Your mortgage payment is $100,000. Pay it off. And then you now have that $2,000 of mortgage payment, monthly payment that you're not paying, but continue to pay yourself that and put it somewhere, right? So now you're not paying that debt. You're collecting all the principal and interest. It's all yours now, right? And you can't really get to that money. So if somebody said, hey, I've got this new shiny thing you should buy. And you're like, well, it's in my house. I'd have to go get a refi and then a HELOC or whatever. It's just harder to do. So it's going to make you have some delayed gratifications and think about it. Anyway, so I would always recommend paying off debt. Another thing you do is consolidate debt. You could take all your credit cards or whatever and put them all in one place. Usually you get into like debt counselors and they help you with that. I don't know if I'm a fan of debt counselors. Sometimes it seems like they just charge you to do the thing you already could have done, but it is a mentor. So if you're not going to do it on your own, then hire them, pay them, because they're going to help shortcut the process. So and I guess do some research. Make sure you're picking a good one there. The other one is your debt statement. So just read through them and see exactly what it's saying. And I mentioned this earlier. Maybe you can lump sum pay it off. Weirdly, sometimes in your mortgage, there is a penalty for paying it off because that means the bank's not getting all of the interest. So I guess be aware of that. And then, of course, avoid new debt. Duh, right? I think the other thing that people sort of miss out on is then that financial education. Don't be an idiot. There's a difference between being ignorant and stupid. Stupid, I just literally, or I don't know if that's the right word, but I can't learn that thing. Ignorant is I just chose not to learn it. I could learn it, but I didn't, right? So don't be ignorant. Fill yourself up with some financial knowledge. You can easily get on some podcasts and just start listening to them, and they're going to give you financial advice, or get an Audible book and listen to it. They will give you some basics. Just listen to one on debt, listen to one on generational wealth, or something like that. You're going to gain a whole lot more than in a short span than you ever thought you would. Or hire a mentor like Vincent Financial Groups. They're just down the street. They're members at our gym, and they do a heck of a job helping people with their health, or not their health, that's us, but their wealth. And so we pair up nicely. If you want to live into your 90s, you better have health and wealth. So hire them, right? This is what they do. Their business is working with people to keep their wealth growing for them, right? Okay. So we're going to move on and kind of talk a little bit more about what Dave Ramsey would actually encourage you to do. So I love Dave Ramsey's stuff. Most of this we've already went through, so I'm going to go a little quicker on it, but maybe it'll trigger something for you. So we talked about track your spending. I would say use YNAB. Identify non-essential expenses, and that really is going to come down to what are your goals, right? You're going to find out that many of the things are non-essential. Prioritize the things that you really need over want. Use that delayed gratification. Eliminate unnecessary subscriptions. Man, that's just a no-brainer. If you don't know what you're being charged monthly, man, that's just, I don't even have the right word for it. That's just crazy. You need to know what you're spending a month. Look at your bills. It's not that hard. YNAB will pull everything in, and it's easy to do. The first month or two is a little bit chaotic trying to get it all set up, but then it's cake after that. And like I said, I use it daily. I click refresh, I see what comes up, and I make the adjustments and move things around. This is one that wasn't really stated, but I love it. The eating out budget is huge. Learn to cook that food at home, right? Cook your own stuff. I think it's a huge thing to know where your food comes from and be part of that sourcing. Some of that is cook your own food. There's a bunch of people at the gym. I think we're up to like 10 people now at the gym that have actually got their own chickens, or that's weird. They're raising their own chickens to make eggs for them. So now they just go out to the backyard and they can grab an egg. That is beautiful. It doesn't take that much space. You basically can get maybe a large doghouse, or maybe a shed. Put a chicken in there and let them free range. If you have an HOA, that's a little bit tough. Check your HOA covenants. Usually they say no chickens. They don't always say no fowl. So if they don't say fowl, then you can actually get a duck. A duck will lay an egg too, except ducks need water a lot, which is annoying, and they poop spray because they drink a lot of water. So it's kind of gross, but they do lay an egg a day, and they're bigger than normal. So it's pretty good stuff. So cook your stuff at home. We already talked about, actually we didn't talk about this, reduce your entertainment costs. So this is something that I found to be quite interesting. Some people have very expensive tastes in their entertainment. Here's an easy one. If you understand why you're doing the entertainment, for example, I want to be social. I want to challenge my mind. I want to have good conversation. Then maybe you just need board game night. So a couple of us get together to play D&D. It doesn't cost anything. Well, unless you buy a book or something, but you can get away with paying nothing. Everything's online for free. You just come and use your imagination. Jordan actually paints miniatures, so it's something fun that he does. It takes him a lot of time. He buys, like a $5 miniature, or not even that, like maybe $1, or a pack of them, and then he will paint them, and it takes a lot of time to do it. So his fun habit is time consuming, but he super enjoys it, and therefore it keeps the cost to time relatively low. If your enjoyment is going to the movies, well, literally, if you just wait a month, you can see the exact same movie at the dollar theaters. They do still exist, which is kind of gross, or you just watch it on your own TV, which is sometimes bigger than the screen you're looking at when you're that far back. So save your money. Don't spend it on that. Find another way to enjoy the entertainment that's out there. Could you go fishing? Could you take a hike? Could you pick up mountain biking? Of course, if you're mountain biking, you got to buy a bike, but that's a one-time expense. Well, I guess there's some repairs and stuff that go on, but you get the point. It's not like going to Andretti's and driving the circle. That's going to cost you every time you go out there. But buying a bike is a one-time thing. Then you just go on the trails. Shop smart. You can use coupons. I don't really do this, but I did find that even in my bank app, there's a scrolling thing at the bottom that says, hey, these are some discounts we have for you at these different stores. So that can be smart. Or just making a smarter trip, like going to Costco rather than the convenience store. So here's an easy one. The convenience of buying a bottle of water at the gym is going to cost you $1. Now realize after I charge you on a credit card, I think we make like 10 cents on a bottle of water. So it's just something I do because you guys want water. So I know we have water there already at the gym. There's a spigot, right? But some of you want bottled water, great, whatever. But you're going to pay $1 for that. Whereas if you went to Costco for $5, you could get a pack of 32 water, right? So there's obviously an exchange there in cash and convenience. So just be aware of what you're doing. If you're buying stuff for your own home, yeah, go to Costco or BJ's or whatever, or Sam's Club and buy in bulk, especially if you know you're going to use it. Things like paper towels don't have a used by date. You can buy a big pack of it and then put them in your basement. Of course, if you have a basement. So that's another thing. You got to have a place to store stuff. So some of the things you can do that Dave Ramsey would recommend is cut back on conveniences. So what is a convenience? Maybe I have a service that does my yard. Could you ask a neighbor's kid to do your yard, right? Or maybe do it yourself. Lower utility costs. That's a tough one. Like you could do solar panels. That's going to cost you a whole lot and the paybacks are really bad. Instead, you could probably just put some window treatments on or that plastic you can roll behind a window so it'll make them more airtight. There are some things and you could Google that or YouTube it and say, hey, what are the easy things to do for my, to make my house more efficient. That's a good one. You can also, on the efficiency side in your house, you could actually negotiate a lot of your bills, especially utilities. You can call them up and say, hey, can I do something better? And they're going to usually say yes at least one time, especially if you mention the word loyalty. I'm not a huge fan of this next one that he mentions, public transportation. I think this was written long enough ago that he could have just said Uber. I think that makes a lot more sense. And I suppose during the early times of college, I might have gone Uber because I could have saved a lot of money. I didn't really drive anywhere, but it's also hard to rent a car when you are underage. I think you have to be like 24 to rent a car. So maybe there's some problems there. And really back in the, before Uber came out, so 90s and 2000s, it really wasn't an option. Taxis were about it. And those are pretty expensive. The last thing that Dave Ramsey is going to mention is to be mindful of your impulse purchases, which is delayed gratification. So getting out of debt doesn't have to be tricky or hard. It doesn't have to make you miserly and have an irritating, non-fun life. It starts with you knowing the goal for the end so that you can then make choices that back up those goals and that destination you'd like to get to, right? The next part of it is it's just going to be wiser with money and track stuff. If you're not tracking it, then you're going to be in trouble. You need to track it. Have a budget. Use YNAB. I mean, that step right there is almost all of this all together. Once you start seeing it, you're going to be like, oh, there you go. So I would say your first step is start using YNAB. If you have questions on how to use it, go to Google first or YouTube or whatever, and then come to me second. I'm not an expert on it. I just use it for myself and I'm getting my kids to use it. Even for them, I told them to go watch a video. So yeah, right? But it doesn't have to be incredibly hard, but you do want to spend money. Why make it if you're not going to spend it? On the things that really matter to you. For me, my health and my fitness matter a lot because I want to live a long time. So I do spend money on those darn chickens. And now I'm buying and I'm making my own feed for them. I go to the bread buckers and I buy grains that are organic, made for humans, right? Or human quality. And I mix stuff up and give it to them. Of course, my chicken's free range. So most of the time they're eating, crickets and grubs and whatever else that's out there and being eaten by predators. But I give them this to supplement and also, when I yell, hey, chickens, hey, guys, they're like, hey, I love that guy. He always feeds us. So there's a little bit to it. But I'm happy to spend that money because it aligns with my future goals. I want to live a long time. I want to know my food's source. I'm going to produce some of my own food. I have chickens. I have their eggs. I'm going to eat their eggs raw almost every day, 2 eggs a day, right? So it all aligns. So yes, I will totally spend that money. I go to a CrossFit gym. I spend the money for it. Yeah, I do own this particular gym, but I spend my own money many times on things for the gym, and I'm totally happy to because I'm 50 years old and I'm healthy and fit. I just climbed the rope legless because someone challenged me to. I'm like, yeah, probably stupid, but hold my beer. Let me do it. The other day we had muscle ups and I was still able to rock out 10 muscle ups. It took me a while, but I was 2 at a time, but I was still able to do it. So Health and fitness is huge for me. I do want to spend on it. Having brand new cars is not huge for me. I don't buy brand new cars. I do want my kids to be healthy and safe, so I spend on things for that for them, but I don't buy them brand new cars. I do want them to have a good education. Now, knowing the difference between what Auburn charges out of state and UGA charges in state with the Hope Grant, I am going to aim all of my kids to stay in state because, man, in the end, it doesn't really matter where you go to college. It matters what you do with the life that you're given. All right, guys, if you have questions on this, we're here for you. Remember, we are just down the street, just south of Woodstock here at CrossFit Garage, where we want to help you build a firm foundation in fitness, food, and your finances. All right, guys, you can email me at Andy@CrossFitGarage.com or go on any of our socials. We are there for you. Take care.